Hello and welcome to the Browns Blitz. Today is Tuesday, April the 6th. I'm your host, Rod Bloom. Joining me today is my brother, Jeff. How are things going, Jeff?
Well, Rod, today it was 79 and sunny, and I cut my grass, and it's the first week of April, so I can't complain.
Feels like summer. Yeah,
It's beautiful.
We had snow flurries a few days ago down here.
Right.
It's just
Yeah.
nuts.
Go figure.
Yeah. And to help us kind of break things down this week, our guest, Chase Richardson. Chase is back on the podcast. I think this might be maybe your third appearance, Chase. How are things going?
Yeah, I think definitely probably at least my third or fourth appearance. Glad to be back, Rod. We're doing good down here in Orlando. It's been pretty warming back up. Nice cool evenings now, so we've been sitting outside enjoying some beverages. It's been nice.
Are you guys above 79 down there?
I'd say most days it's probably about 82. This is like a very good time to be in Florida.
Yeah, nice. So I know that we're going to talk Blitz beverages. I know, Jeff, you moved on from your alcoholic beverages to some water, but I understand you enjoyed a Cabernet earlier. Would you like to talk about that at all?
Well, it was so nice out today, Rod. I mentioned cutting the grass and got the grill out, and we grilled a little surf and turf. So I thought, what better night than a Tuesday night to open up a 2014 Dark Horse Cabernet that's been sort of chilling in the wine rack for about 7 years or so right now. If you can't do it on a Tuesday night, what night are you going to do it on? So we wiped that bottle out pretty early. The lobster tails were awesome. The fillets were succulent. And hey, it feels like summer to me.
Yeah, guys. Jeff is good on the grill. I am
eloquent too. Wow.
I'm still kind of learning. I might never get to where I can do lobster tails and things like that. I do pretty good with burgers and things like that because I've got a pretty good grill now.
Right.
Jeff's kind of like the master with the grill, so he's really good there. And I got to give him props.
Well, the key with lobster tails is aluminum foil and tons of butter.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Sounds really good. Chase, what do you? We talked about this, but are you drinking now, or do you drink earlier, or what do you?
Yeah, a little bit earlier. We were sitting out. So we live by a lake here in Orlando. So we like to sit out and kind of watch, the sun and have a nice glass of wine and kind of just watch the sunset. The sunsets are great in Florida, with all the colors and stuff. So it's nice. We just like to relax. So now I took my dog for a little walk, and now I'm relaxing. I'm thinking I might turn on some baseball here in a minute once we get off.
Nice. So are you, as far as wine goes, are you an aficionado, or do you just kind of drink casually? Do you like red wine, white wine? Do you, are you particular with what you pair your wine with, or what?
I wasn't a wine guy for the longest time. I'm only 23, so I guess I can't say the longest time. But, for the first year and a half of being allowed to drink, I wasn't a big wine guy. Jamie, actually, my girlfriend, started getting more into wine. So there's a wine bar we really like around us, and they'll do like charcuterie boards, and they'll show you what goes with what. So I do have a base level knowledge of what kind of foods should go with what kind of wines, but it was pretty good. We enjoy it. I would not call myself an aficionado, though. I wouldn't say.
But if you enjoy wine, yeah, if you enjoy it, you kind of you just kind of learn about it.
For sure.
I mean, Jeff and his wife know quite a bit about it. They've been drinking wine for a while. I'm kind of um, I know a little bit
Beer snob.
and I enjoy it, but huh? Oh, I
You're a
might be
beer
a beer
snob.
snob. Yeah, I might be a beer snob. So, guys, I'm actually on my second beer because we got a little bit of a late start here recording. I'm not blaming anybody. I sat down early before we started and I opened a beer, so I had it about gone before we started recording. So I posted a picture of the Sierra Nevada Wonderland Nectarine Ale. It was pretty good. I'll say this: I drank it and probably and guys, I'll say this again. I'm not like a heavy drinker. I don't drink a ton of beer all at once. So I drank that beer in I don't know 20, 30 minutes probably. So it went down pretty easy. It's a pretty smooth drinking beer, but you don't taste a lot of nectarine. Sierra Nevada, I mean, it almost had a little bit of an IPA taste to it, almost a little bit of that nature to it. But it was a really nice summer beer. Just a very smooth beer taste to it. Just a hint of nectarine, not much, which is good because I recently restocked my fridge and I got some other beers that had some fruit flavors in them, and some of them are very fruity. And I'm kind of glad I only got like 6 of them because it's almost like a fruit punch kind of deal. I really want to taste the beer with just maybe a hint of a flavor to it, and that's what this is. So I would recommend this, and it's really not even about the nectarine flavor because you really won't even taste that much. But if you want something summery, goes down kind of smooth, kind of light, I thought it was pretty good. And I moved on to a Labatt Blue, another summer beer, just kind of a standby. So good stuff tonight.
Nice.
Yeah. So guys, I think we've all kind of perused Twitter and every place else and looked for Browns news, and there's really not much going on right now. The trend continues. We're looking for stuff to talk about. I do think maybe Jadeveon Clowney's worth talking about because we were talking before we started recording, and Chase, you were mentioning John Johnson and his Instagram and that. I'm just going to kind of pass this over to you. Where do you stand? I mean, there's really not any news that's come out, but he hasn't visited any other teams, right?
Right. And the longer it goes, and I said this to you guys before we began, the longer it goes, the more I'm kind of thinking it's probably more of like a sure thing, and it's just gonna be a matter of when. To me, it feels like they're probably hammering out details, and they're kind of just the market. I would say is not dry, but I mean he would have a hard time, I would think, finding a lucrative deal. Play a year here, reset your value opposite Miles, and kind of move forward.
Well, there's a few other defensive ends out there still unsigned, so these guys are competing for just a few positions, but these guys might be unsigned through July. Who knows? They could sit out there for a while. It just seems kind of odd, but this is not what we've seen with the wide receivers. You look at wide receivers and you got this huge wide receiver class coming out with like 100 guys that are going to make rosters in the NFL. It seems like to where it's hard for a wide receiver to get a deal. There are defensive ends in this draft and probably quite a few guys that are going to make teams in that, but there aren't a ton of guys who are going to have a dominant impact their first year. So to me, it's pretty interesting that he visited the Browns, nothing got done, and now we're just kind of sitting and waiting. Um, is part of this due to him trying to get healthy as well, guys? I've seen a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think there could be some of that. He probably, in terms of rehab and recovery and what things look like on imaging, I think he could definitely be trying to put himself in an ideal situation. So, you want to put yourself in a stronger position to negotiate, and health has obviously been a pretty big issue, at least to this point in his career. So, I think that's there could definitely be some truth to that.
Yeah. So Jeff, if the Browns really think they have a pending deal with Clowney, wouldn't they want to wrap that up before the draft to know what they have?
Well, yeah, it'd be nice to add a vet like that, but I honestly don't think it changes their strategy.
Okay.
On draft days.
Mm-hmm.
Clowney does come here. It's probably going to be a short-term deal. I'd be surprised if it's more than 1 year. And like the other signings, with Malik Jackson and Anthony Walker, I think these guys are placeholders. We still need to look for guys to be developing in those positions. So, yeah, it'd be nice to have him, but honestly, I don't think Jadeveon Clowney's the guy that puts us over the edge.
Well, I think he fits the mold, right? It's a guy that has talent. He's talented. It's a guy that's coming off of a poor situation, albeit a situation that he probably put himself in, but he's looking to rehab his career and I guess his image in a lot of ways. So, I think he just fits the mold of this front office. It's just a smart move. If you can get, former number 1 overall pick Jadeveon Clowney for $8 million a year to come sit for a year, and, maybe the edge you take in the first or second round now gets to sit and learn, by the way, behind a very talented edge rusher in Miles and Clowney, I think it just fits the mold. It's just a smart move if you can make it happen for the right price.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, Chase. I think, if you can add him for the right number, you do it. But, Takk McKinley's a very talented guy, too, who's also underperformed in his career. So I think we're talking about adding more question marks to the roster. We already have quite a few question marks on defense. What are we really going to get from Jadeveon Clowney? I don't think, if we sat down and put pen to paper, we could say with a high level of certainty what we're going to get out of Jadeveon Clowney for that $8 to $10 million. You said earlier that the best thing you can say about him right now is that he's a talented run stopper. Okay, who has had a hard time staying healthy,
right.
Who has underperformed from a contract standpoint. So yeah, I like the idea of adding veterans who, we know what we're going to get from them and are placeholders. Okay, but I'm not sure that Jadeveon Clowney gives us the same value for the dollar that we're getting from Malik Jackson and Anthony Walker. Those are guys that, you can sort of sketch out exactly what you're going to get from those guys and what their roles are going to be. Yeah, I'm not sure what Jadeveon Clowney would really bring to this team. It could be a 10, it could be a 3.
Right, and I think that's also kind of been the motto of this front office, right? Like, I think in their mind, you could go get someone that could definitely get you 4.5 sacks for $5 million, but if you can up that to $8 million, money that might not even be there given the rollover cap situation. That's just money for the year that you have. So when we're talking about that, I think that the argument could be made that Jadeveon Clowney moves the needle enough to warrant the extra $3 million for the year. It's risk reward, right? So he could bust. He could hurt himself week 4, and we don't see him the rest of the year. Or maybe playing opposite Miles and talented guys along the middle, along with Tack McKinley, they'll probably have him standing up for pass rush packages. I think that maybe the less pressure on him, maybe he sees a career year. Who knows?
Right.
Yeah, guys.
My point is I don't see that changing our priorities going into the draft.
Oh, I totally agree. I think that it's a luxury, and I think it's a smart luxury if you can get it for the number, which I think that they will. But it's something that is a luxury. So you go into the draft, and if there's a guy sitting there, a la Jason Owe, Kwity Paye, although I don't think he'll be there, just Ojulari. No. If you see a guy and you get to see him, and maybe and Owe is raw, but he's a freak, and he tested like one. So if you can sit him for a year behind Clowney and Tack McKinley and Miles, all guys who have been around the league, I not that they're I think Miles is a great leader, so I think that would be great.
Right.
Yeah, well, let's be realistic, guys. On this team, the only guys who we really expect as far as defensive ends, to have spots, and we know that spots are not just given; they're still going to have to be earned. Is other than Miles, of course, Miles and Tack McKinley. Other than that, I mean, who else is guaranteed spots on this team at defensive end? Really nobody. So if you have those two guys and you sign Clowney, you've still got a spot for another defensive end, right? I mean, unless somebody, like Curtis Weaver really looks good, you've got at least one spot for a defensive end. So I think you're absolutely right, Jeff. I don't think it would change anything, especially when these guys are on 1 year or 2 year deals. Even if they sign Clowney for 2 years, I don't think it would keep them from drafting a guy. But let's go back here and tell me this: if the Browns don't sign Clowney, what's the best that you guys could expect from Tack McKinley over a full season if he's the starter?
Probably in the neighborhood of maybe 6.5 sacks, 7 sacks. I think he's a good pass rusher, and I think you saw what he could be in the early part of his career, especially. I think it was his first year was pretty good. And like we've talked about, playing opposite Miles matters. The double team stuff.
They're opposite Miles, and this defense, the DTs are. I mean, they should be pretty good, assuming all these guys are still on the roster when fall gets here. What's your thoughts, Jeff? If we go forward and Tack McKinley's the starter and ends up playing most of the snaps in this season?
Well, I really hope we don't end up in that situation, because I really see Tack McKinley as a situational guy. I think we need a first and second down defensive end, a guy who can put his hand in the dirt and move an offensive tackle. And I don't think Tack McKinley has the resume to do that at this point in his career. He may have the talent on paper, but to me, it looks like he's a situational third down pass rusher. He's the guy who's going to come in, give Miles a blow once in a while, and be in your rotation. I don't think he was brought here to be your starting left defensive end. I would be really disappointed if that's how we open up game one with Tack McKinley at left defensive end.
So is that a vote for signing Clowney or not?
Well, I think, I mean, I mentioned earlier, I think that's a great move if you can do it, on something that makes sense. But I still think we need to find a guy in the draft, and that's got to be our top priority. Is finding a guy in the draft to be our left defensive end, and I think it's on par with where we were last year from an offensive line perspective, where we had guys that played at all positions on the offensive line, but we really needed a left tackle.
You saw
what Andrew Berry did.
Yeah, it's so, I think, prescient of you to say that, Jeff, because I was actually just going to bring up. I've kind of been looking up and down the roster and, well, at least what we can expect the roster to probably look like. And I'm really only finding like 5 spots for rookies. So I think, given the amount of draft capital they have, I think that you might see, I mean, if there's a guy sitting there at the top of the second that they really like, I mean, I think you could definitely see some picks be moving for them to get up if they really are enamored with a guy.
Yeah, we've talked about this, Chase. The fact that they're not going to make, what do they have, 8 picks or 9? 8 or
9, I think. I think
9.
Okay. Yeah, they got two extra picks, extra third and fourth, I believe, right?
Right.
So yeah, they
Right.
are 9 rookies are not going to make this team. So yeah, and I've asked Jeff and other guests this question: what are they going to do? Are they going to, are they going to trade picks out? Are they going to move, up in the draft? Are they going to sign guys and just see who makes the team? Are they going to use the picks and just see, bring guys in and just see who makes the team, cut guys even though they were drafted? So it'll be interesting to see what they do. But I agree with you, on a team that's talented, it's unlikely that more than, 5 rookies.
Yeah,
5
that's
rookies
right
seems
where you're
realistic.
at.
Yeah,
right, and
realistic.
And you can kind of get you can talk about like the guardrails. We remember when that all came out. So like you can kind of see like a shadow of the thought process, right? So it's like churn the bottom of your roster, right? Like bring in like cheap talented players, a la Clowney and John Johnson. Bring in the right kind of rookies to make an impact. And I think that they're going to be aggressive. I think that's been a hallmark of this front office. I think they're going to be looking to move up if necessary. And if they don't have a deal they like, they're going to be smart and they're going to trade out for future assets for 2022 and 2023. Yeah. I have never, and I don't know if you guys relate to this, but I've never felt so much trust in a front office. It's like everything they do, I'm like, that's going to work out probably. Like I trust it to work out.
It's been a long time.
But isn't it kind of weird, right? It's like every move they make, you're like, that is smart, and I pretty much agree with it. It's really refreshing.
Yeah, people will crucify me for this, but I trusted John Dorsey going into the draft. The draft with Baker. So that's how many years ago? Was that the 19 draft or the 18 draft?
18.
18 draft. So, I trust them going in, but then, I wasn't sure about Baker. I really wasn't sure about Denzel Ward. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh. And we'll get into that later. So, but yeah, I agree with you. I do trust these guys, or Andrew Berry in particular. So, and
I feel good about what they're doing, they've done, Rod. But it's a little soon to anoint these guys as geniuses.
Well, yeah,
let's let them develop more of a body of work.
Yeah, I'd like to see how this draft class works out. I think if this draft class pans out the way the last one did, I think you're in a good spot.
Yeah, but I have a good feeling, and I do trust them because of other things they've done. It's not just the draft. You can't look at just the draft because we only have 1 year, based on last year's draft. So it's really hard to grade the draft even after 1 year, even though last year's class, looks very good. So
I think they don't. I don't know that they've really missed on a free agent signing, at least as it pertains to last year. So I'm interested to see how this batch of free agents works out. Because it is, yeah. I think it's pretty rare to bring in free agents that actually, pan out in a significant way. But John Johnson looks like, kind of a game-breaking type of dude. So I'm excited.
Yeah, and you kind of are going to have to grade these guys a little bit differently when you got guys like John Johnson, the guys who are signed to more significant deals than these guys who are signed to 1 year deals, so they're gone in a year, that are the placeholders, like Jeff said.
Yeah,
Jack Conklin, for instance. Jack Conklin, you had an expectation level, right? Based on the deal, the position, right? The expectation is high. John Johnson, the expectation level is high. Okay. Some of these other guys, they're going to be hopefully depth pieces, or guys who are, helping to bring younger guys along. So yeah, I like what they've done so far. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not, saying that they don't have a good track record to this point. But the NFL is hard and the draft is hard, and you're going to miss.
Oh yeah. Well,
sure. We can't, suddenly second guess guys because they miss. And this draft is even wilder than anything in recent memory. And, we have a totally different perspective on the draft this year. Honestly, for me, in the past, I studied the top 10 picks because that's all that mattered. It's a little different now.
Well,
right? Here's as a Browns fan, that's all that mattered.
Yeah, yeah. Well, here's the thing that's so much different right now is that the Browns are not going to have to draft to fill specific positions. So I think Andrew Berry can go into this and look and go by his grades on players and take the best guy. And yeah, he's going to look at defense first, probably, but there are a number of positions on defense that can really, really help this team. So I think he's going to look at defense, maybe tackle, in the first couple picks. But it gives him a chance to, by not being blocked in and having to, man, I got to take a tackle in the first round this year. It gives him a chance to really be able to. It gives him a better chance of being able to nail the pick. It really does. Mm-hmm. Now, whether it doesn't mean he's going to on everyone, but I agree with you. So let me go back to defensive end real quick, guys, and let me know if you agree with this. The best way for the Browns to handle defensive end is for them to start with Myles Garrett, Takk McKinley, Jadeveon Clowney, and a rookie defensive end drafted in the first or second round on the roster.
Totally agree.
Jeff, you good with that?
Yeah, I would say that'll work. If you can't get Clowney, I think there are a couple other guys still out to come in the first round. Yeah, I think I want 26 or wherever we end up slotted if there's a move up or down. Mm-hmm. I want that first pick to be a defensive end who's a 3-down guy, and in a 4-3 lineup that can put his hand in the dirt and can play all 3 downs. Okay, so that for me eliminates some guys. So we can get a little bit more about who I think fits that. But for me, I think, that is the pressing need this year. You can talk about other depth pieces we need going forward, with some decisions we're going to have to make on players and guys we need to develop and so forth. But that is the pressing need this year.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. I want to talk just briefly about the Sam Darnold trade, which is just kind of interesting, guys. He goes to the Panthers for a 6th rounder this year and 2nd and 4th rounders in 22, and I guess he's getting his 5th year extension as part of this or whatever. He knows he's going to get that. So
and I think Carolina gets a box of Cracker Jacks with that too.
Cracker Jacks? Oh well, that steepens. Carolina gets that. Okay, yeah, nice.
Right. Yeah.
I think
that balances it out.
I think. Well, I think it's an overpay in some ways, but at the same time, if Joe Brady thinks that he can work some kind of weird magic and turn him into Joe Burrow, then okay.
I think it's an overpay because of the 2nd rounder next season.
Yeah, I mean, I think the highest I might have gone was a 3rd, but I mean that's just me. He was garbage.
That's just crazy because I mean, you think about it. This is a guy who pretty much everybody thought was going to be the number one pick in the draft in 2018.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
And
Still the
that
third.
not only that, but if you roll the calendar back 2 or 3 years prior to that, teams were lining up and tanking to draft.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's weird because he's just so bad, and it's not even like you can blame the O-line and Adam Gase, which all totally fair. His numbers from a clean pocket are damning. It's insane. I mean, like, we're talking like bottom of the barrel, 33rd qualified quarterback in the league from a clean pocket accuracy, like so bad. Crazy.
Yeah,
Well,
it just shows you how I told you, Rod, that the NFL draft is a crapshoot. Even when you're talking about
is,
top
but,
picks.
I mean, yeah, Darnold's still only 23 years old though. So
Yeah.
and I know you can't teach certain things, but it's kind of hard to give up on a guy when he's that young. So
I think that it's possible, and I think that the most likely scenario is he's Teddy Bridgewater. Like, he's okay. Like, he's just kind of there. He's the 22nd best quarterback in the NFL. Like, he might just be Andy Dalton. Like, that's fine. Some guys are Andy Dalton. You need Andy Dalton.
Well,
you know what I mean?
And teams win with Andy. Not the Bengals, but teams win with Andy Dalton.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you can go win 9 games with Sam Darnold. Who knows? I mean, that's fine.
Yeah,
Good for Carolina.
So I just thought we'd look.
What's funny is that if you look at that draft, Rod, there were a ton of questions about Josh Allen. There were Josh Allen. There were all kind of questions about him. There were even more questions about Lamar Jackson.
Right.
But everybody felt confident. Like Darnold is kind of the safe pick. Josh Rosen, we feel pretty good about him. We're not sure what his ceiling is. Baker, nobody really knew what to expect with Baker, but Josh Allen, is like, I don't think he's going to work out. And Lamar Jackson's like, nobody wanted to touch Lamar Jackson. That's why he went at the end of the first round, So, and those are the 2 guys, well, the 3 guys, if you include Baker, out of that draft that ended up being the consistent quarterbacks. And the 2 guys that everybody thought were going to be, the sure things, are pretty much washed up at, in their early 20s. It's crazy to think that 32 NFL teams can that badly miss on quarterbacks.
Well, it's kind of interesting to me, right? Because that almost to me makes me respect like our front office a little bit more, because I know like everyone didn't play like super quality snaps, but every rookie like played and contributed last year, like down to the 7th round, which is pretty rare, I think, especially for a roster this talented. Even just for all the rookies to make the team, let alone contribute, I think is incredible.
It means you drafted pretty darn well, that you knew your stuff going into the draft.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean that 18 draft, it's very interesting because I've seen a lot of tweets, a lot of stories about, while all these guys are gone, all these guys have been traded, and every quarterback, maybe it's top 5 quarterbacks or whatever, but other than Baker, are not with their team anymore. But I mean, Josh Allen was taken 7th. He's obviously doing very well. Lamar Jackson, Ravens moved up into the first round to get him, probably to get that 5th year. That was a very interesting draft class.
It really is.
With Denzel Ward going 4th, Nick Chubb going 35th. I think you could talk about that draft class for just hours and hours. But it was crazy when the Browns made that first pick. I was with a group of Browns backers, and you could have heard a pin drop when the Browns picked Baker. Nobody wanted the Browns to pick Baker.
Well,
nobody in the entire room wanted the Browns to pick Baker. Within 5, after the Ward pick, pretty much everybody in the room got up and just walked out and left.
Well, because it was everyone wanted Barkley, right? Like Barkley was the big thing.
Everybody wanted Barkley or one of the other QBs number 1, and then at 4, people wanted Bradley Chubb.
I wouldn't have been mad. I wouldn't have been mad at that time.
No, Bradley Chubb would have been fine, but I mean these picks worked out pretty well.
Oh, so, yeah.
So yeah, I mean we've got two excellent players.
That year, right? Like that year between free agency and then like the draft itself, like maybe the most consequential in Browns history, right? Like if things continue to trend in a positive direction.
Yeah. And
we've talked for years about laying that foundation, and that you're right, Chase. That draft is what did it.
Yeah, taking Chubb at 35 and Baker and Ward, those 3 guys. I mean, you can talk about the other guys that are gone, right? Who cares,
right? And Jeff said it, right? Like the NFL draft's hard. Like you need to hit a couple times, and especially like a guy like Chubb in the second round. Like you need to make picks like that at the correct time. And a lot of things need to go right for your fortunes to change. The NFL is built for parity, right? Like the NFL is designed for everyone to go 8-8. Yeah. So to be bad for so long should, just numerically not be a thing.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
It should be hard.
Incredible things in Cleveland.
We've talked about that a lot of times, Chase. It's hard to be bad for a long time.
It really is. It's actually rather incredible, and there's a lot of good content. Like there's YouTube creators, right? Like there's like Urinating Tree is a guy. There's a couple other content creators that do like long form narrative, type of storytelling, and they do some pretty interesting stuff on just how hard it is to do what the Browns have done for like the last decade.
Yeah,
we should
up
be
until
proud.
now, obviously.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
So guys, the trade of Darnold really, makes it apparent that obviously the Jets are going to take Wilson at number 2. San Francisco apparently is in love with Mac Jones. I mean, you guys explain that to me. Why?
I mean, I don't see it. But
why is Justin Fields going to drop to like number 6 or 8 in this draft? And is that really going to happen?
He's going to go to like.
I know I'm a homer.
Detroit,
I know I'm an Ohio State homer, but really, is he like the 4th or 5th best quarterback in this draft?
I mean, I certainly don't think so.
No.
I mean, what the heck do I know? I mean, what if he makes it past number 4? If Atlanta takes Pitts, or if someone else trades up and takes Lance or Jones. He'll free fall all the way to 9. He'll get down to Detroit, and I think they'll take him unless someone else trades up.
You would think somebody would trade with Miami to get ahead of Detroit then.
Quarterbacks are such a crapshoot. Like even at the top of the first round, like Lawrence, we think probably is pretty foolproof. But like other than that, like I don't know. Like we just said it, right? Like Lamar Jackson went 32nd, and he was the second ever unanimous league MVP. Like Justin Fields could fall to 28, go to the Patriots, whatever, or wherever they're picking, and
they picked 15 actually, but
15, Hall of Fame.
We're not used to them picking that high, but
yeah. But you know what I mean, though. Like the guy could go anywhere. I mean, Dak Prescott was a 4th rounder, and he made how much this last offseason?
Well, it's true. And yeah, I mean, there have been a lot of guys who have gone, a lot of great quarterbacks have gone in the lower half of the first round. So
I mean, whatever, right? Like if he's as talented as we think he is, and he goes to a team that has an actually decent roster, then who knows? Maybe he pans out the best, because people don't want to admit it, but it is like so location and situational based for quarterbacks. Like who knows if Darnold comes to Buffalo, what his career is like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's you make a good point. Guys obviously want to get drafted high. It means more money for them, more prestige.
Right.
But as far as their career goes, it's really better if they go like, number 20, 25, 28.
And that's why I was so excited for him initially, right? Because on paper, at least, San Francisco's there. Like, they got Trent Williams. Like, the defensive line's disgusting. Like, Kyle Shanahan.
They got a great team. They had injuries last season.
Yeah, so I mean, you would think if you think Justin Fields is quote unquote the most talented at 3 left, you would go get a guy like that because he can next year potentially take you to the Super Bowl, and for 4 years after that, while you still have him on a cheap contract. He allows you, or, obviously Mac Jones would afford them the same luxury, but they're going to have this talented roster now, and they're going to have a cheap quarterback again for probably like 5 years.
Yeah, so you guys think 5 quarterbacks are definitely going before the Browns pick, right?
Yes.
At least 4. I would say 5 for sure, but at least 4.
Which is a great thing because that just means more good players are going to drop to us.
Oh, yeah, Jeff. Speak on it. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
For sure. Do we want to talk about who we want for the Browns at 26? Like, do we have?
Let's kind of try to get there. What's assuming that five QBs go, what other position runs do you guys expect to happen? I mean, to me, it's probably either wide receiver or tackle. Maybe corner. That we'll see a run go in that first round. Right. What do you guys think is most likely?
I mean, you're gonna see. I think you're gonna see at least five tackles come off the board, offensive tackles, before the Browns pick. I'd say you're probably gonna see 4, probably 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very likely. And 5 wide receivers.
Yeah. Because you're gonna get both Bama kids, right? You're gonna get Jamar Chase. You're probably going to get a guy like Rashad Bateman is like a guy in the 20s I could see.
Okay. Yeah, that's 4 or 5 guys. And then, edge guys, I don't know how many guys will be gone before the Browns pick. At least one,
3.
Not 2, right? 2 or 3.
I mean, I could see 2. I could see 2 coming off the board. I could see probably pay maybe Jalen Phillips, guy like that.
And then corner is kind of hard to tell too. So probably anywhere from 2 to maybe 5.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the ones with the most flux, right? Because you think you're going to get Surtain, you think you're going to get Horn, you think you're going to get maybe Greg Newsome, probably Fairley too, right? The kid from Virginia Tech or Virginia. Yeah,
well, yeah, it depends. I mean, he's the guy who could fall because of his surgery. So you never know.
For sure.
And then linebacker probably. Well, I mean, Parsons is gone, right? For sure.
Right.
And then JOK, which I guess is what everybody calls him now, which is a whole lot easier. He's a guy who everybody's hoping might be available, but he's chance that he gets picked too.
He's a pretty perfect big nickel. So I think that if he makes it even into our stratosphere, I think I could see maybe the Jets taking him since they're going to be running a similar system to San Fran now.
Okay.
At 23 is a guy I think that I could see them taking.
Do you guys think a running back goes before 26?
No, I'm going to say no. If one does, it's only going to be Najee Harris or ATN. I don't think they both go before 26.
Okay.
I think those guys are probably looking at top of the second.
Yeah. Is Kyle Pitts the only tight end that's going? He's obviously going before 26.
I think Freiermuth could go maybe
top 5 or 6 probably.
Yeah, I would say for sure. He's not going to make it out of the top 10, but I think Freiermuth is a guy you could maybe see in the late 20s.
He could, okay. And then Christian Barmore, is he going?
I think he's a guy that could be there. I think he's a guy that could potentially be there. People don't really value inside, at least nose tackles that much. I think he could be there at 26.
And what do you guys think of any of the safeties? You think any of the safeties are going before 26? Morrig. Morrig's a guy who probably goes first, but.
Yeah, I think if it's anyone, it's Morrig. I think JOK is a hybrid linebacker safety. So if you want to count him, then I guess maybe 2.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I'm at if I take the minimum, I'm at like 22, 23 guys gone.
Yeah,
for
like
sure
I
before the Browns pick.
I think they're gonna have options, and you know how Browns Twitter's like very reactive at all times, so you always like, oh, he's never gonna be there. Eventually, your list of guys that are never gonna be there is gonna be over 26. So someone's gonna be there,
right? And all these guys can't go in the first round.
Well, and it's the luxury we just talked about. Like, they don't. I mean, it doesn't matter who's there. Someone good is gonna be there, and they can just draft him or move back.
It doesn't matter how many guys run 4.3s. There's only 32 picks in the first round.
Right.
Right.
So Chase, who do you expect to be there at 26? What kind of options do you expect the Browns to have? Who do you think the best? Who do you think the best corner? Who do you think the best edge? Who do you think the best offensive tackle? Even the best wide receiver. Who do you think the best guys would be who would be available for the Browns at 26?
I think at 26, maybe Zaven Collins could still be there. I know that we've seen him get mocked to the Browns a lot by the national media.
So
I don't know
that's not happening, as Jeff has said.
Right. So I don't expect that to happen. Right. But, we in terms of other guys that could be there, like I think Eric Stokes from Georgia is a guy that they've talked about. Terrence Marshall's a wide receiver from LSU that doesn't get the kind of attention that he should, because of Jamar Chase, and the team wasn't really that good this year. But I think that just those guys, Barmore could be there, like I said. Maybe a guy like, it's kind of hard to know.
Corner's hard to say.
Yeah.
Corner that'll be there. I mean, it could be any of like 5 different guys.
And I mean, if 4 guys get taken, maybe like I said, maybe you get a guy like Eric Stokes out of Georgia. It's just kind of hard. Like I've seen Nick Bolton get talked about a lot for like the second round, a linebacker from Missouri.
Yeah.
I mean, there's options later too, right? Like there's Asante Samuel Jr. Like that's a guy that could potentially like maybe fall to you in the second round. Aaron Robinson from my alma mater, UCF, is a guy that I've seen talked about at 59.
Yeah, who do you think, if the Browns decided to go tackle a guy to be the heir apparent at right tackle, who do you think they would have their eye on? Hope that would fall to them. Maybe make 26, or maybe they even move up a couple spots.
Maybe Cosme from Texas is like a guy that you could see. He's probably more of like a first round guy in terms of guys. In the second round, like maybe you could see a guy like Alex Leatherwood from Alabama falling. Like he's like a very like aggressive road paver. Like he's a very talented tackle. I think in a year with less talent, you might see him as a first rounder. Jalen Mayfield from Michigan is another guy in that range for the 59th pick.
Yeah. How do you feel about these names, Jeff?
Well, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier about the need for this year. It's the defensive line,
right?
And if I'm prioritizing who I want to get out of this draft with, number one is we've got to have somebody play that left end. I wouldn't mind ending up with Barmore in the first round if all the edges that I like are gone at 26. And then get into the second tier of guys that I like. I mean, Owe, Basham, Janaris Robinson, Patrick Jones.
Yep.
I mean, those guys I think are going to be there at 59.
Peyton Turner,
so I think
Houston.
Peyton Turner is an interesting scenario from the perspective that he can move inside. So just depending on how our defense evolves, and if we do end up using more of a what I call a tweener guy to bring the pass rush from that side, Peyton Turner could be that guy that's he's your end on first and second down, and then he moves inside, and Tack McKinley maybe is your stand-up rusher. But I really feel like, worst case scenario would be if the top 3 edges are off the board and Barmore's off the board. Now maybe you have to go cornerback because there's going to be some real good ones there for you.
Right.
Oh, there should be. You should have your choice of like the 4th or 5th corner. Yeah.
Right. I mean, this class is so deep in.
Jeff, you there?
We may have lost him temporarily.
Yeah, I might have lost Jeff.
Yeah, I want to get your thoughts, Chase, on the. I've seen the of Joseph Osai, who's a linebacker, but people have him listed as an edge.
Right.
Also.
Right.
Is he a guy who can play edge in the NFL? Is he big enough?
Sideways with Greedy Williams. Sure. Oh. Right. That's what I want to. I mean, I want to see a guy who's going to be out there on 1st and 2nd down every week. Okay. 59. If that's our edge guy, maybe he's developing behind a Jadeveon Clowney. Okay.
Right.
89, 91, and 110. I'm just going to kind of lump together as those 3 picks are going to come from a group of guys that we're going to be developing for next year and beyond. And It's going to be offensive tackle. I like James Hudson out of Cincinnati a lot as a guy who can be our swing tackle early and can eventually develop
That's the big kid, right?
Yeah, I mean, he can eventually develop into our starting right tackle in 2 or 3 years. Okay. Mm-hmm. There's a couple other guys that fit that mold in that second batch of picks. There are some cornerbacks that I really like there that are tall, athletic kids. Tyson Campbell maybe there still. Israel Mukwamu, kid 6'4", can take the other team's tight end out of the game in a situational sub package. I mean, that's the kind of cornerback I want to see us draft. I mean, Troy Hill gives us the flexibility to put a kid there that isn't going to be on an island, that we can bring in situationally and develop. So I think cornerback, if we take a cornerback high and then we try to backfill this other stuff, I'm going to feel like, the draft really went sideways on us. I think it needs to be one of those top 3 DNs. I don't think Pay's going to be there, but Phillips or Rousseau probably will be. And
let me ask
one. I'm taking.
Let me ask you this then, Jeff, because Rousseau, a lot of people, are kind of projecting to be a guy that probably moves inside, because he doesn't necessarily have the athletic traits.
Rousseau?
Yeah, because a lot of people are kind of projecting him as a guy that'll probably kick in at least for some downs for most teams as a tackle. So what do you think there? I actually would be in favor because if he works out on the edge, then he works out. But you had a need in the middle anyway. You know what I mean? So you kind of
that's
there.
That's sort of the Peyton Turner argument, right?
Right.
But in a later round. I mean, look, the knock on Rousseau is that a lot of his activity, a lot of his sacks came from the zero technique, where he was lined up inside and wasn't going against a tackle.
Right.
Look, he's got 1 year of college football under his belt. He opted out last year. But if you watch the film on him, he's incredibly athletic. I think right now Jalen Phillips is a more finished product than Rousseau. But if we're in that scenario where Jadeveon Clowney is here for a year and we've got Rousseau coming in with Tack McKinley behind those 2 starters, that's like mind blowing to think, how good our pass rush could be this year.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Yeah, I'm honestly really quite enamored with Phillips as a prospect. I really like him. I would really like him at 26.
I
think
love Jalen Phillips. I mean, again, you watch him play. I think he could step in and play every down.
Oh yeah.
And he would feast opposite Myles Garrett. Both of these guys are natural left defensive ends who will absolutely feast with Myles being double teamed. Phillips has the question mark of health.
Right.
But you know what? If he was there, and I would risk it. I would take him.
I think certainly. I mean,
even if I only got 2 or 3 seasons out of him, I'd be thrilled.
Well, because you're next year. It's next year, right? Like people really aren't talking about it quite that much yet, but like next year's the year, guys. Like you know what I mean? So like if there's a rookie there.
We want to win in the next 2 years.
Right. So
we want a championship in the next 2 years.
If there's a rookie sitting there at 26 that can walk in and give you 8.5, 9, 10 sacks opposite Myles Garrett, you jump. You know what I mean? So like
not only that, but you watch either of these guys play, and maybe it's part of it's coming from the Miami program, but these are 2 really disciplined guys.
Oh yeah.
That you don't see them over pursue. You don't see them get faked on a run play. I mean, their highlight reels show them really maintaining their integrity of their position. And, we don't just need a guy who's fast.
Right.
That's going to get around the corner. We don't want to be giving up 150 and 200 yards of rushing every game too.
Right.
So,
well, and that's the Clowney argument, right?
They can play both sides, right?
Right, and that's the good thing with Clowney, right? If you have him for a year, like maybe you kick in Rosso to the middle, and now like you have like 2 trees in the middle of your defensive line. There's guys. Who's the other guy? The guy, the edge from or the tackle from UAB. I'm trying to think of his name. I want to say it's Smith. Maybe is a guy I was looking at. For the Browns, he's huge. He's like 6'7" too. And I saw one mock that had us going Rousseau and then him in the second, and I was just thinking of adding 2 guys that are 6'7", 6'8" to the D line. Was crazy.
Pretty cool. Yeah. So, guys, I think I know Chase's answer here, but if for some reason that there are a couple of runs in this draft that don't include defensive end, and Rousseau and Phillips are both there at 26, the Browns just kind of sit and watch both of these guys fall. Chase, you're taking Jalen Phillips, is that right?
I think that they're both very kind of overwhelming, but in different ways. Like they're both like very disciplined, as Jeff alluded to. They're both like very violent pass rushers. Jalen Phillips to me just kind of has that thing that sets him apart as a prospect, and it's a little bit of the same thing you kind of see with Myles. Like if you're watching the All-22 or if you're watching just like the tape slowed down, like he's getting off, I would say, a good quarter of a second like before everyone else is reacting. And that's the same kind of stuff you see with Myles. Like he is just explosive. It's a marvel. And Jeff talked about it. His tape is insane to watch.
Jeff, who are you taking then? Or what are you doing? I mean, are you thinking of trading back a spot? And just let the other team, make your decision for you? Picking up a third rounder in 22?
I have them ranked Pay Phillips Rousseau. That's my top 3. That's my tier 1 defensive end. Those are guys that fit our system. Those are guys that can get the job done in year 1.
So you take Phillips, right?
Whichever, yeah. If Pay's there, I take him. If Phillips is there, I take him. If Rousseau is there, if that's the last guy left, I take him. If none of those 3 guys are there, then I'm going to go to plan B.
Plan B for you is Barmore, you said.
Well, if Barmore's there, he's kind of like the wild card.
Right.
Yeah.
So would you take him over Phillips?
Well, it means that there's somebody there at another position, guys.
Right.
Definitely.
Would you take him over Phillips then, Jeff? Barmore?
No, I think if Phillips is there, and maybe somebody has already taken Rousseau and Pay, and it's between Barmore and Phillips, I think Phillips fills a more immediate need for us.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and if those guys are all gone, you probably have your shot at one of the top corners, or maybe one of the top wide receivers, or one of the top tackles.
So are there
Right.
names that you guys like? And Jeff, and I think you said this earlier, that you're kind of lumping those middle picks together. Are there guys that you're into at those picks? Or are there
You mean
positions?
at 59?
Yeah, like like those middle picks. The second,
Or
the third, and the fourth.
okay. Well, at 59, I think we're either if we've got our edge at 59, or at 26, I think at 59 we're probably going cornerback.
Okay.
But it just depends on who's there. Okay. If one of those top tackles was there, I wouldn't be afraid to take him in the second round. But
Okay.
I like those guys better in one of those sandwich picks at 89 and 91. It's really going to be fun to watch 89 and 91 because you get 2 out of the next 3 picks.
Yeah.
And depending on who's there, that's going to be really interesting to see who's still there at that point. But I think at 89 and 91, we're looking that next group of need is D tackle. And honestly, if we don't have a D tackle we like at 89, we're probably not coming out of this draft with one, because there just aren't enough good ones for us to draft this year.
What would you think about a
and that's
guy
going to
like?
probably be on next year's.
What would you think about a guy like Marvin Wilson then, if he was there in like maybe the 4th round?
If he falls to the 4th, yeah. A lot of people like Alan McNeil.
Yep, I think that's like a 3rd round type guy.
Right, 3rd round guy.
Yeah.
But hold up for just a second, guys. I've been wanting to do this. We've been talking about maybe 5 rookies making this team. I really want to sit down with a value chart and convert these 9 picks into 5 picks. Kind of see where that puts the Browns. Move those 3 picks that are bunched together up using I
think PFF has that for sure.
They probably have that already. It's probably really easy to do. Yeah,
I think PFF you can trade picks pretty easily. I think the Draft Network you can do it, but I want to say you have to be a subscriber to do it.
Yeah, well, I can get a chart and do it real easily, but so maybe I'll do that for next week. But
all right, well,
you can definitely move those 3 picks up. The 2 you're looking at the 2 third rounders and the first 4th round pick.
Right.
Well, so you could definitely move those up a bit and give you more, a little bit higher options, because you're taking those lower picks. I mean, it's not going to move them up a ton, but it's going to give you a little bit more reach. Maybe you can get one of them to the end of the 2nd round, leave one of them the same, and maybe you move the 4th rounder up to to the end of the 3rd, something like that.
Yeah, I don't know, like some combination of like first couple rounds. Like you talk about a guy, maybe you get one of the premium edges, right? Like maybe Phillips falls to you, maybe 2nd round 59, maybe a guy like Tommy Togiai sitting there, right? Like I've seen some mocks, honestly, where Rousseau fell to like the top of the 2nd. I could see the Browns maybe trading one of the 3rds to jump up and grab him if he's sitting there and they feel like they could get some value.
Yeah, because you got to be realistic. Once you get into the 2nd round, the contracts are minimal.
Right.
They're minimal. It doesn't matter. So move these picks up so you get, if that's where they think the value is. It's going to be up to Andrew Berry. If he thinks that the value is the same in the 3rd round as it is middle of the 2nd, then he's going to stay put. And try to get guys there.
Are there positions like Jeff? I know you mentioned that you were talking about potentially like an heir apparent or right tackle. Are there positions that you guys are looking at, Jeff? Like other than right tackle on Rod Hughes, that you'd like to see them maybe look into a guy to be, quote unquote, the successor?
Well, I'll just say right away that there's still a bunch of question marks at linebacker.
Right.
there's the question of, who's going to be our number 1 or 2 wide receiver in 2 years.
Right.
There's the question of, are we going to extend Wyatt Teller at guard?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of questions in terms of, a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road. I think right now this draft, we're looking at this year.
Right.
And, I think Peter Jones mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, Rod, that, whoever we take in this draft has to be better than who we already have on the team. So
yeah, or you're wasting your time.
Taking a guy like Marvin Wilson to answer your question, is Marvin Wilson going to beat out Jordan Elliott?
Right.
I think we have to be looking for guys who have at least a good chance of making the team and contributing. So, right now we have a need at cornerback and at safety, going, down the road, because we have serious question marks around Greedy Williams and Grant Delpit.
Oh yeah.
Okay, those two guys are the two biggest question marks right now. Beyond that defensive end position, we've got to know what our long-term answer is there. Okay, so I prioritize that next. Linebacker is just not as highly valued. So I'm looking for guys, in the later rounds who I think can develop into the right fit in, that 4-2-5 attacking defense. Guy like Tony Fields out of Arizona, who projects as a will in that sort of a system. I think we have to be focusing on what the system Joe Woods is putting together is going to look like in year 2, because based on year 1, we really have no idea.
Right.
He was using so many spare parts that we really don't know what the defense is going to look like.
Well,
and I want to find a 4-3 or a 4-2-5 guy that's going to fit that scheme.
And it's so interesting to me. That's the reason I'm so kind of intrigued by Zaven Collins as a prospect, because he is 6'4", 260, and has a pretty decent tool set, at least as a pass rusher.
Mm-hmm.
I would be very interested to see maybe you make him a defensive end that you can drop into coverage. That's pretty interesting as far as defending tight ends, because we know that the goal, quote unquote, is purported to be this defense to be very multiple, with guys that can move around and, change spots and, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
So, that's the reason I've been so interested in him. I don't know that they take him, just because of some of the names that we've discussed that might be there, but he's a guy that I think is interesting, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we just don't.
Yeah,
really
I think he does things that other guys can't do.
Yeah, and I think we really don't know how the Browns feel about the linebacker position.
Right.
I think it's just a mystery until we really see a trend. And we've only seen one season, and they really didn't address it strongly last season, but they really didn't address the defense strongly last season.
Right.
So
right.
maybe they'll come out and and go after somebody like Zaven Collins. But I'm kind of interested in what you guys think. Do you think they'll come out stronger toward linebacker or towards safety in this draft? Because the question we got the question marks with Grant Delpit. We hope he's going to come out and look great and play great. But the Browns have one more season of Ronnie Harrison, and then he's a free agent. So they've got spots there.
There's going to be a lot of really hard decisions, I think, in about a year or two.
Yeah. So into this draft, where are they thinking about? Where are they thinking of investing? Safety, linebacker?
Well, I think it's just so dependent on who falls, right? I watched some tape last year, and they do drop Olivier Vernon into coverage not infrequently. So I think they value a defensive end that can move around a little bit. NFL trends dictate that you need at least serviceable speed in the second level of the defense, and they simply did not have that last year. And I know Jeff will agree with me. So it's just such a premium that if a guy's sitting there that you think can pass rush and also defend the middle of the field, like I think you go after him. Like I've even seen at 26 or them moving back to 34 and taking that linebacker from Kentucky, Davis, because he's so fluid in the second level of the defense.
Davis,
yeah.
I think he's a guy who's moving up, I believe.
Yeah.
It's not that that's a real thing, but for people who are mocking,
right.
Yeah, I've seen him mocked to the Browns at 26 now. So, I guess it depends on your board. He's probably right there with Zaven Collins.
Right. Okay, so then Jeff and Rod, why don't you guys, who are some names that you like then? Like, Jeff, I know you mentioned cornerback and safety specifically. Like, who are some guys you like then?
Well, I mentioned some cornerback guys. I think, if we're looking at that 89, 91, 110 range of picks,
right?
If I'm looking for a safety there, probably Andre Sisco out of Syracuse is in my mind the number one free safety, which is what we need. That was our primary need last year, was somebody who could actually defend the pass. We didn't have it on the roster. Now Johnson brings some of that, but I would really like to see somebody back there that gives us depth as a true free safety. Cisco's coming off of an ACL, but again, he's the type of guy who can go back there and give you, the extra defender in 4 wide receiver sets.
Yeah. I think Cisco and Grant are kind of the true free safeties, but do we really know where those guys are going to go?
I think Richie is interesting. I tutored Richie at ECF. He's a pretty interesting guy.
Nice.
Yeah, he's cool. I'm really excited to see. I actually tutored the majority, Jamie as well, my girlfriend, but we actually tutored the majority of the guys that are going to get drafted from ECF this year. So we're pretty excited.
That's pretty cool.
See where they end up. So, like, if Richie comes to the Browns, like, I'm gonna be really excited. Like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So I'm pumped for that. But I'm just
Cisco and Grant. Those guys could go. Well, probably not first round, but what do you guys think? I mean, second, third round. I mean.
Yeah, I think Richie.
I'm thinking third round.
Yeah, I'm thinking third round for Richie also.
Okay.
I think that's a good spot for him.
So yeah.
He can
do
everything.
Those 2 picks in the third round. I think those 2 picks in the third round are probably going to be an offensive tackle and a safety.
He used to bring us Chick-fil-A sandwiches, so that's coloring my view of him as a prospect. But he's my number one free safety. Because when the team
put a star by him.
When the team went to the Peach Bowl and won, well, just for going, but they won. They got like 2 years of unlimited like free Chick-fil-A. So the guys they got these cards. So the guys would always be walking around with like 9 sandwiches at a time, trying to keep weight during the season. It was pretty funny.
Well, I mean, I would like.
It's going to be really interesting because there's so many different ways that this could go, Rod.
Oh, I agree. I would like to see him take a linebacker, either a guy like Zaven Collins who can do the things that Chase was talking about, maybe come up and play some defensive end, that's probably Collins or Davis or a guy like Jabril Cox who is a better coverage kind of guy, but you just don't know with linebacker, man. Linebacker it's changing in the league, and it seems like these good linebackers, guys who can really do things that the NFL that the NFL teams want them to do now, man, these guys skyrocket in the draft.
It's
move up.
Right? It's like you could tell me like right now that they're going to draft Collins at 26, and I'd believe you, and you could also tell me that they're not going to draft a linebacker until the 5th round, and I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, it really just could go so many ways. Like, if Jeff said it, like, if they take Phillips, Asante Samuel Jr., and Togi, like, yeah, maybe they don't touch a linebacker until the 5th round, 6th round. That just might be how it shakes out.
It wouldn't surprise me at all. It wouldn't surprise me. I would like to see him grab another guy, just an athletic guy like Jacob Phillips that they can develop, who's going to have just a ton of speed out there and be able to cover guys and be able to cover the field. I think they just need speed.
He's just so different. He's so different as a prospect. Like there's guys and you can see it, and you and Jeff will know this from years of watching football, but some guys are just moving at a different speed, and he's definitely one of them. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how much stock you guys put into that RAS, that metric for explosive grades for prospects, but I think he was fifth ever since they started keeping track of it, which is 1970. In terms
there's a lot of guys putting up 99s right now at their pro days, but yeah. Everybody.
For him, you can kind of see it on film too, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, but I think it'd be great if the Browns get a guy like that. But if they could get somebody that would help with the pass rush and could also drop in coverage like Collins, it makes sense. But it might be that they just don't value that position, and maybe they just go corner, safety, defensive line, offensive tackle, wide receiver, and we're set at line.
In their mind, maybe it's just big nickel forever, right? Like John Johnson and Troy Hill. Maybe linebackers is kind of an afterthought. You pray that Jacob Phillips kind of develops. I know he had flashes last year in terms of being kind of up to speed of playing linebacker. Maybe you pray he develops, and then your other linebacker is kind of just a crapshoot. Maybe Anthony Walker pans out, maybe he doesn't.
Yeah. So
here's my problem with those guys, Rod. Zaven Collins can give you some pass rush, can give you some pass defense from the linebacker position. JOK can give you some linebacker play, can give you some safety play. These guys either solve two problems for you or they solve none. And going back to Jabril Peppers, there was a guy in the middle of the first round who solved none. Not that he's, was utilized correctly or whatever, but I think where we are as a roster, we're past the point of taking chances on guys that we don't know what we're going to get from them.
Well, in the first round, particularly. That's why I would probably be fine if they can get somebody like Cox or Baron Browning or something like that in the third round, an athletic linebacker.
Baron Browning impressed me defending tight ends in the playoffs. I thought that was pretty. And even in the
that's what they need, right? They need some speed. Whether it's a safety, or a big corner, or a linebacker that's very athletic. They need somebody else to fill that spot. I know Troy Hill can do that, but you need the more guys you have that can play like that, the better. Right.
A name in the third I liked was McGrone from Michigan. I think he's really good, and I think he would probably be there in the third round for them.
Well, if these guys actually are still there in the third, and the Browns have an option to get a linebacker who can help at that spot, I think it'd be big. Because I'll be kind of surprised if the Browns take a linebacker in the first or second round.
I'm projecting.
I would be stunned.
I'm going to project one trade up, and I'm going to project at least one trade out for future assets. That's what I'm going to say right now.
So how many total picks do you have the Browns making?
I think they're going to make 6 picks. I think they're going to trade up once, and then they're either going to trade 2 picks or 1 pick for future assets. Yeah. I think that's probably what I'm thinking right now.
Yeah, I could see that. You think that's pretty realistic, Jeff?
Yeah, that's a safe bet.
Okay.
Excellent. And I think if they could move up that from 59, that's the pick that makes the most sense to move up, because the top picks in the second round this year. First of all, this draft is just so wonky because of COVID and guys opting out and everything that I wonder how accurate the evaluations are going to be.
Yeah.
But the chances of hitting on guys at the top or, the top half of the second round, I think there's going to be guys there that in the past may have been first round picks.
Yeah.
That we're going to have a lot better chance of hitting on. So I think that pick is prime for moving up. I think you mentioned that earlier, Chase, to get us into the top half of the second round.
If you could get up,
I like where we're sitting in the third, top of the fourth for developmental guys.
If you could get up to 49 and get a guy like Asante Samuel Jr., Javon Holland, Jabril Cox, like in that range, like I think you probably have to do it.
Well, I think a third or fourth rounder will get you there. I would have to look at the charts, but
I think you could move up 10 spots for your fourth rounder, certainly.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a problem, definitely. So yeah, this has been fun, guys.
Yeah, for sure.
Chase, do you have any closing words for us? We really didn't even get to kind of catch up on you and your personal stuff.
We're
personal life. I was going to ask you about law school and all that, but
finals are in a week and a half, so I am on not a lot of sleep.
Yeah.
Wow.
All the more reason why we should be closing out.
Yeah. Well, this was good. I guess in terms of closing words, like I'm very bullish on the Browns. I don't think I think we can talk about it and continue to talk about it. I don't know if it ultimately matters. Because we know the front office to be competent, I think. So whatever they do, I think is going to be good. And Jeff said it, and you said it, Rod. There's a million different ways it could turn out, and most of them are pretty good. So,
Right.
Yeah, definitely. Jeff, anything to close on?
Well, we still have over 3 weeks until the draft, so we can beat this up a million different ways.
And we will.
It's going to be exciting to see.
I think a fun.
We will.
We could do a fun exercise, right? Like we should all get back on, right? And we should all get on like the Draft Network or PFF and maybe do like a mock draft for the Browns, so we can kind of update, like say who we all took at 59, or say we could do something like that. That'd be cool.
Yeah. And the only other thing I want to say is if people aren't aware, tomorrow my brother reaches the double nickel. So I wanted to be the first to wish happy birthday, Rod.
Happy birthday, Rod.
Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks. Now everybody knows I'm an old timer. I appreciate it. Been good talking to you guys.
Yeah, man. Enjoy your day. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys.
Thanks. This has been the Browns Blitz.
Thanks.
We will catch you next time.